The very thought of one of my posts going viral is my literal nightmare. If I have a post that reaches a lot of people and they're the wrong fit people, and maybe it's, a post that has nothing to do with my work and they're not going to actually buy from me or hire me, that's not what I want. But I really don't want my post to reach a wide audience of the wrong people that are going to wind up engaging with more of my content or seeing more of my content, and they are not the people who I want to actually be reaching. You're listening to the Bold Women in Business podcast, the show for women who are building something that actually matters and who are ready to stop hiding behind the polished and perfect and start showing up as their bold, magnetic, human AF selves. I'm Rachel Honeyman, your guide to finding your true magic and putting it front and center in your brand. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. So I have to confess something that is probably going to sound weird coming from someone who does content and social media for a living. It's a huge part of what I do. And that is the very thought of one of my posts going viral is my literal nightmare. I'm not even kidding. This fear has kept me up at night on occasion. Don't worry. It's not something that keeps me up often. There are plenty of other things that keep me up at night. That's not the thing that I'm worried about most of the time, but it is something that I am really nervous about in the back of my head. On Instagram in particular, I've never had a post that went actually viral. I have a couple of videos that have gotten 10,000-ish views, maybe even a little bit more, but nothing that has had like hundreds of thousands of views or certainly not 1 million views. By today's standards of virality, right? Posts going viral. I've never had that experience, but it's an experience that terrifies me. But going viral is this thing that most people are chasing. Even if they don't say it explicitly, they are hoping that their posts are going to go mega wild and hundreds of thousands of people are going to just see their videos and they're going to blow up overnight and experience that taste of fame that so many people are looking for. And they think that going viral, having a post go viral is the answer. It is the thing that is going to make them grow. They look at how many followers they have, they look at how many views their posts get, and they feel like a failure constantly. There are whole accounts whose entire purpose is showing you the hooks that are going to get you 1 million views and the formula for going viral. Yet here I am as a content strategist with 16 plus years experience. I've been in the social media game for most of that time. And the very thought of going viral actually makes my stomach a little queasy. It is the last thing that I want. So today I want to talk about why that scares me so much and the much better questions that I think you should be asking instead of how do I blow up or how do I make my posts go viral? So let's just start with this story that so many of us have in our heads. And we were never taught it explicitly. Although, like I said, there are many accounts whose sole purpose is to explicitly teach you how to do this. But most of us didn't learn that from those accounts. We learned this just through osmosis. We see what's in front of us on social media. We see people going viral all the time. Certainly celebrities, right? Celebrities and influencers, we see this happen all the time. But most of us also have friends, people that we know personally, who've had posts just blow up and go viral. And maybe they've gained, thousands of followers overnight and they've had this experience. And when we see that, it feels possible. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, it is possible. It is absolutely possible. And I will tell you that the reason that going viral scares me so much is because I know that it's possible. I know that it could happen at any point in time. If I didn't think it was possible, it wouldn't scare me so much. But it is possible for anyone who's posting regularly has the possibility in front of them of one of their posts or maybe multiple of their posts going viral and suddenly getting tons of views and tons of engagement and maybe bringing in a whole bunch of new followers. And because it feels so possible, because we see so many examples of it all the time, we've gotten it in our heads that going viral is the goal, that the dream is that post that's going to take off and get 1 million views and just be an overnight success. And suddenly your business is going to be booming overnight. We look at how many followers we have, and we have this idea in our heads of how many followers equals success, right? When will you have made it? What's that follower spike that is going to finally take you over the edge and bring you to success and fame and all the things that you're looking for? We treat virality as the finish line. Like when you cross that, suddenly you're going to have all these eyeballs on what you do and your work and the thing that you love so much. And you're going to just have clients flooding in the door. We think that that's what it takes. We think that reach is this domino that's going to knock over all the other things that we need to make our business successful. And it makes sense that we think that because the platforms that we're engaging in put these numbers front and center constantly, right? We are inundated with how many likes our posts get, how many views, how many impressions, how many shares, how many likes, all those things, right? We are just shown those numbers constantly. We're inundated with those metrics in big, bold letters. And we see them not just in our own accounts, but in everyone else's accounts too. You probably go to people's accounts and look at how many followers they have. And even if you don't think you're doing it, you make a snap judgment. How legitimate is this person based on how many followers they have or how many views they're getting on their videos? What these platforms don't show you, they just bury it under these big, bold numbers that, feel sexy to look at. What they don't show you is, are the right people seeing your content? Are you reaching the right people, the people who are actually the ones who are going to buy from you and the ones who you want to work with? And that's a lot harder to show in a numerical value, right? These platforms are not at this time able to distinguish between who's a right fit person seeing your content and who's just a person seeing your content, just eyeballs on your content. So it's a much harder thing to gauge, but that's where you need to be in touch with who's your ideal client and who do you want to be talking to and are you connecting with the right people? So when a post goes viral, right? And viral can mean different things for different people. Let's just be clear about that. I have posts that have, 10,000 plus views. I consider those like viral for me, right? Those are like viral for me because it's a bigger reach than I'm used to. So even though in the kind of grander scheme of things, it doesn't actually mean viral, I do want you to think about like what's viral for you, right? But that's kind of maybe a separate thing. So we'll just use the term viral broadly, and that can mean whatever you want it to mean. But when a post goes viral and gets like many more eyeballs on it than you're used to, and many more eyeballs on it than maybe you expect, by definition, that means that it's going to land in front of a very broad range of people who are not necessarily your people, because reach is a vanity metric. It doesn't tell you anything about the people who are actually seeing your content. And so a post that lands in front of 100,000 people, let's just say you have a post that winds up having 100,000 views on it. Amazing, right? This is incredible. Does that actually translate into a single sale? Not necessarily, because if all of those people are the wrong fit people, it's not going to translate into your business improving in any measurable regard. So personally, I would trade that 100,000 view video or whatever it might be, that viral post, 1 million times over if I have a post that has 200 views, but it's in front of the 200 right people. That's a much more valuable post objectively, not just in my opinion. Objectively, that is a much more valuable post. So lest you think that I'm like talking out of my butt and have no idea what I'm talking about because I've never experienced going viral. It's not exactly true. I just have never had a post on Instagram go that like mega wild. But on other platforms, I have had this experience before and I can talk about that experience. Plus, I've talked to a lot of people who have had the experience of going truly viral on Instagram and on many other platforms, and they share the same sentiment. So a few weeks ago, I posted something really dumb, like just a dumb post on Threads and LinkedIn. I posted it on my Instagram stories too, and it did not really gain any traction. That's totally fine. But on Threads and LinkedIn, this post went like bonkers. Not millions of views. We're not talking about that level of virality, but I think it was maybe 50 or 60,000 views on Threads and somewhere around the same on LinkedIn, and just got tons of comments and shares and reshares and like all the engagement that you want, right? This post went mega viral for me. Again, viral can be a relative term. So for me, these went like mega viral. And the post was basically identical on both platforms. It was a screenshot of a cold outreach email that I had gotten that was like a ridiculous email. So if you're a business owner, you probably get these types of emails all the time, which are these cold outreach agencies that are reaching out to you to pitch their services, right? This could be, promising to book you a certain number of sales calls, or, doing your Facebook ads, or improving your SEO optimization on your YouTube videos, whatever it might be. I get like dozens of these a week. So this post was a screenshot of this cold outreach email that I got that was so ridiculous. I just had to share it because it was so funny. And it was basically the person, I don't even know if it's a real person, but whatever this company is, they have some sort of AI automation that is clearly scraping people's LinkedIn posts and putting together an email based on that, and then like having the tiniest little thread of connection to this LinkedIn post, and then they pitch their services based on that. I get this all the time, like many, many, many times a week. I get this same exact email, just with like a slightly different formula, a slightly different, the content has changed, but I get the same email all the time. But this email was basically their AI automation had scraped this LinkedIn post of mine where I had been sharing about my experience of grief and how it plays a role in my business. And I don't even remember what exact post it was, but this is something that I talk about often, right? Bringing that realness into my business. And the email that I got was basically the AI tool saying, this is not an appropriate topic to tie to a sales email, right? You're taking a very sensitive topic and you're tying it to a sales email, and this is inappropriate. And basically the email that I got was clearly not looked at by human eyes. It was just put into the email and sent out. And it was basically the AI tool responding to this prompt saying, this is inappropriate. I can't respond to your prompt because you're trying to capitalize on something very sensitive like grief and spin it into a sales email. And I can't respond to that. So I get this email and I just thought it was so funny right off the bat. I took a screenshot of it. I posted it on Threads and LinkedIn with like the tiniest little bit of text. I think I said something like, show me a better cold outreach email. And this post went bonkers bananas on LinkedIn and Threads. So for a few days, even a week or so, I became the girl whose phone is like blowing up, right? I'm just getting notifications left and right. I am getting all this engagement on these posts. And I'm not going to lie and tell you like it didn't feel good. It did, of course. It's this like really intense dopamine hit. I totally get why people chase that. I totally get it. Your brain just instantly lights up. That's kind of what this whole process is designed for. And do you want to know how many clients that viral post, those 2 viral posts brought me? 0. Zilch. Not a single one. First of all, because that post is actually not about the work that I do. There's a slight link to the work that I do, which is like, don't use AI without making sure it's infused with your human empathy and editing it and being really careful about that sort of thing. Sure. But the post itself was like dumb and just a silly, funny thing. that has nothing to do with the work that I do, which, by the way, side note, is something I've heard from many people who have this experience of going viral, is that the posts that go viral are not necessarily the ones talking about the work that they do. It can be something totally different that is kind of silly and stupid and not the thing that they necessarily wanted to go viral. But there's a reason for that, because that's the thing that's going to draw in a lot of eyeballs. But the other thing is that when you have a post that goes viral, again, whatever that means for you, that gets a ton of eyeballs on it, those aren't necessarily the eyeballs that are going to buy from you. They're not necessarily going to follow you. I actually didn't even get so many new followers from those posts. I got a few, but like not a ton. So you can make the argument that if a post brings you a bunch of followers, maybe those followers will eventually turn into clients if they're, getting into your ecosystem and starting to see your posts that are related to your work. But if they followed you based on something that isn't related to your work, it's not likely going to move the needle at all. When I had this experience of just tons of notifications coming in and I'm getting tons of views and tons of comments and tons of likes and all the things, right? Yes, it felt good momentarily, but I started feeling really nervous, because the other thing that happens when you have lots of people seeing your posts is that it draws the nasty trolls out of the woodwork. I got really lucky though. With this particular post, I didn't get really any trolls. Maybe I got a couple of comments that weren't like the best, but they were fine. And I didn't really get any trolls on this. But that is a big fear of mine. When I think about like, if a post of mine goes viral, it opens me up to all these nasty comments. And frankly, like, I don't have the time or energy for that. I don't want to be dealing with nasty comments. And 99.9% of the time, I don't, because my audience is supportive and engaged and they love what I put out there and they choose to be in my orbit for a reason. So for the most part, I'm not getting those types of comments and I don't want to open myself up to them. And I know how differently that can go, because a couple of weeks before this whole viral post, again, I had posted on Threads. I recently started posting on Threads more. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I have found it to be a really powerful tool for growing your Instagram. So if you're kind of stuck on Instagram and you're having a hard time growing your audience on there, growing your reach within reason, in the context of this conversation, I'm not talking about, growing your following to some mega number. But if you're stuck and you're kind of in those early stages, I do recommend trying Threads, because it has been really helpful for me and it's very low pressure. So that's an aside. But I have started posting on Threads. And so a couple weeks before this post went viral, I had posted something silly on Threads. Again, something silly. Threads is like where I have like no filter and I just kind of post silly things. So I posted something on there. I don't remember what it was. I remember that it was related to AI. And, people have opinions about AI, like good and bad. People have strong opinions about AI. But I post about AI a lot. And for the most part, I'm not getting nasty comments. But I posted this one thing and I don't even remember what it was. And immediately the trolls came out of the woodwork. Like, this post didn't even get a ton of views, but I got probably 5 really nasty comments in the span of 30 minutes of posting this. And something about this post just like drew those trolls out of the woodwork. So you know what I did? I took it down, because I was like, this isn't a post that I spent a lot of time on. I don't care about it that much. And I just don't want to deal with the nasty comments. So I think that if I had a post that went mega viral and it was saying something that I cared about and I had spent time on it, like, of course I wouldn't take down that post if I'm getting nasty comments. I'm not suggesting that you do that. But it does open you up to more of that being a possibility. And that's actually a really important point to tap into, which is just think about if you spent a lot of time and energy on a post that you really care about, right? You're posting about a topic that you care deeply about. You poured your heart and soul into something. and you put it out there and a lot of strangers are seeing this post all of a sudden and you start getting really, really nasty comments, just give that a little thought. Like, how does that sit with you? Personally, maybe I just don't have a thick enough skin. Like, that terrifies me. I don't like dealing with that sort of negativity in my orbit. I just don't. I don't like to deal with that sort of thing. I like to make my social media a pretty positive and supportive and inspiring space and fun. Like I like to make it fun. And so to have that negative energy kind of brought into the mix is not something that I am looking for at all. And I know that if I have a post that goes viral, it's much more likely that's going to happen. Much more likely. So I want to talk about kind of the dangers of that many eyeballs entering your orbit, right? That many people seeing your content and engaging with it and maybe following you, right? If they are not the right people, what's going to happen is that you're going to start tailoring your content to the feedback that you're getting. You're going to do it subconsciously, probably. You might do it consciously. You might be aware of it. But most likely, what's going to happen is if you get a bunch of nasty comments on your content, it's going to make you feel bad because that is what it's intended for. And you're human. And of course, it's going to make you feel bad. But what's going to happen as a result is you're going to modify what you're putting out into the world. You're going to say, oh, well, I don't want to show up as my full self because that is clearly not landing with the people who are seeing my content. So I'm going to just shave away. I'm going to smooth out the edges. I'm going to be safer in my content. I'm going to show up as the person that I think that my audience wants to see. And it creates this really kind of warped situation where you're creating content for an audience that isn't actually the right audience for you to be selling your services to. When in reality, you need to be showing up as your full self so that you attract more of the right people, the people who want to work with you and no one else, just you. I want you to picture it like this. Imagine you are teaching a class and you've built this class over time and you have your kind of cult following, we'll say. Not a cult, but you understand what I'm saying. You have the people who are really committed to what you are offering. And they've been following you for a while and they get it. They really get it because you show up to class and you show up as your full self. You've shared what you are an expert in and they are eating it up. They just want to get more of what you have to offer. And one day, 25 new people come into the class and they have no idea who you are. They don't get it. They don't get what this is all about. And what winds up happening is you wind up having to go backwards and try to convince this group of 25 people what you're all about and try to convince them that they should care about it and they should get it. And you wind up neglecting the 15 people who are already bought in. And that's the real danger of having an audience that is the wrong fit, is that you start to teach to the room. It's a natural thing. You start to teach to the room instead of teaching the authentic thing that is you and attracting the people into the room who really, really get it and really want that. And so slowly but surely, post by post, you start to flatten your voice. You start to sand away the edges. You start to show up in the way that you feel like you're expected to show up rather than in the way that is actually going to attract the right people who get it, who really want your weird self. They want the parts of you that are quirky and weird and take a stand and maybe say the things that are unpopular. That's what they were attracted to you for in the first place. So they want to be seeing more of that. They are the people who will actually hire you, right? They're the people who actually want to work with you. And instead, you're teaching to the room. You're sanding away the edges and watering down your message to make sure that the broader audience gets what you're trying to put down. The other danger with this, and it's very related, is that the people who were brought into that post that may or may not have anything to do with what you offer. So in my case, I had this post about a sassy robot that like attracted a lot of attention. And it doesn't actually have anything to do with my work in brand voice and messaging and content and the inner workings of a brand and all of that, right? And so if it attracted more people, the algorithm sees that and is going to start showing those people more of my posts. But if they see my posts about the things that I actually talk about most of the time, they are not interested in those things and they're going to scroll right past. And that then in turn tells the algorithm, oh, wait, actually, we don't want to show her content to anyone, anyone new. So it's just this vicious cycle. And it just creates this kind of bubble of people coming into your orbit and it's just not working. And that bubble is going to burst. So I want to go a layer deeper here, which is, why are we looking for this mega reach to begin with? Why are we looking for virality? And I think it makes sense, actually. We're looking for validation. We're looking for permission. We're looking for all of those things that are very natural to look for. We're looking for someone to tell us that we're on the right track. And our society and social media culture and all of those things have really built into us that the sign of validity is your reach on social media. It's how many people are seeing your posts, how many people are engaging with your posts, how many followers do you have. These numbers are really false, right? It's a false way of showing validation, but we think that that is what tells us we're legitimate. We think that it's what tells us that we are valid and that we deserve to be in the room, when that is not what gives those things at all. Going viral is not actually going to give you that validity. It's not going to make you feel valid either. That's, I think, the piece that people don't understand is they think, oh, if I have a post that goes viral, I will finally feel like I belong. I will finally feel like I have that validation. The people that I've spoken to who have had that experience maybe multiple times over have shared with me that in reality, it makes them feel like more of an imposter because all of a sudden you have this spotlight on you. You have actually people coming to your page and looking at your content, and it opens you up to judgment. It opens you up to, what are all these people going to think? And it's certainly not going to make you feel more financially safe because it's probably not going to bring you more clients. It's probably not going to actually grow your business in any meaningful way. So all those things that you're looking for, and again, you may be doing this explicitly or implicitly, and there's nothing wrong with either one. Saying that you want to go viral, there's nothing wrong with it. It is perfectly normal and natural, and it makes sense that you would want that on the surface. But when you go a layer deeper and you start to realize that it doesn't actually equal the things that you're looking for in reality, you start to look at it a little bit differently. And that validation, that feeling of safety, that feeling of I belong here really comes from doing the reps and working with the right people and speaking to the right people and having the right 200 people see your posts and engage with them and want to go deeper with you. So when I think about the fear that I have, I started this episode talking about the fear that I have of going viral. I want to dig into that a little bit more because you might be feeling the same way, or maybe this is surprising and kind of putting things in a different perspective for you. So either way, hopefully this will be valuable. The things that I'm afraid of really are reaching the wrong people. That's really the thing that I'm afraid of, is I'm afraid of reaching the wrong people and having a post go viral that is going to reach the wrong people. If I have a post that reaches a lot of people and they're the wrong fit people, and maybe it's, a post that has nothing to do with my work and they're not going to actually buy from me or hire me, it's not the end of the world. It's just not ideal. That's not what I want. But I really don't want my posts to reach a wide audience of the wrong people that are going to wind up engaging with more of my content or seeing more of my content, and they are not the people who I want to actually be reaching. It opens me up to nasty comments that I will admit is like maybe a silly fear. Maybe it's silly. Like maybe I should have tougher skin. But it's a legitimate fear, I think. I think it's a legitimate fear. I don't want that kind of energy on my posts. I don't want that kind of energy in my life. I don't have the bandwidth to be dealing with, policing comments. Like that's just not something that I want to be dealing with at this stage. So that is something that I worry about. But much more than that, it's really more about my accounts in general reaching the wrong people and not being able to maintain this kind of like beautiful cocoon that I'm in right now, which is the vast majority of my followers are the people that I want in my audience. They are the people who are either going to hire me one day, or they know people who they would send my way, or they're just people who commiserate with the things that I share about, or in some way my content helps them. That's really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for my content to help people. And so if I'm posting things that are doing the opposite for the wrong people, that just creates a totally different environment than what I want to be creating. So I want to come back to that idea that I touched on earlier of it's possible. I know because I post a lot, any one of my posts could go viral. And I had a previous episode where I talked about like, what does it take for a post to go viral? Yes, there are formulas, there are things that you can do to increase your chances of a post going viral, but the reality is it's usually just luck. That's the main thing that makes something go viral is you just got lucky. The stars aligned and the algorithm smiled in your favor and showed it to a lot of people. And something in that connected with a broader range of people. It's very hard to manufacture virality. Very hard. I'm not going to say it's impossible because there probably are people who understand how to do that. That's not what I'm focused on. So I don't really care to know how to make something go viral, as I think is clear from this conversation. It's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for connecting with the right people. I'm looking for content that has the right kind of connection with the right audience. And I think that you should be focused on that too. I don't think you should be focused on going viral. That is my strong personal opinion. I think it is the wrong thing to be chasing. But most of going viral is outside your control, and it's outside my control. And so I know that one day, maybe in the very near future, maybe by the time this episode comes out, I will have experienced this on Instagram in particular. As I've said, I've experienced it on other platforms, but on Instagram in particular, it could happen at literally any time, and it could be any video. And the video may not even be something that I think is going to go bonkers crazy. I have had videos before that I've posted and I'm like, this is probably going to take off. Like this video is for sure going to take off. And I get decent engagement on my content. I'm not upset at all about the engagement on my content, but there are posts that I put up there that I'm like, this is probably going to go really, really viral. And then I have that fear that sets in and it's like, this is not something that I want, but this is a good post and I'm going to put it up. And then it doesn't necessarily have any different performance than my average posts. So you really can't predict what's going to go viral versus what's not. But I know because of that at any point it could happen. And I will have to deal with all the things that potentially are going to come from that. And if and when that happens, I probably won't be upset. I'm not saying I'm going to be upset, but it is not something that I am chasing. It is not something that I'm looking for. I would be perfectly happy to never have a post that goes viral. Perfectly happy, because that's just not what I'm looking for. It's just not what's going to actually grow my business and bring me the right people. And that is the number one thing that I want to leave you with. If I could reach into your head right now and switch around one thing, it would be to help you understand that chasing fit instead of chasing reach is the way to go. Don't look for how many eyeballs are on this. Don't look for how many people are following me. That is not the thing that is going to change your business. It's just not. You could have literally 50 followers, and if one of those becomes a client, like that is worth so much more than if you have 50,000 followers and 0 of them become clients. Like that's the mathings. So that's really the thing that I want you to absorb is chasing reach is not the thing that is going to move the needle in your business. Other metrics on social media give you a better sense of that, right? If people are responding to your stories or they're DMing you or they're commenting with comments that actually are thoughtful and demonstrate that you have struck a nerve in a good way, you're probably reaching the right people in that case. But it's not about the number of views or the number of people or the number of likes. None of that is going to actually move the needle in your business. And what's really cool about this is that it can be really, really freeing because when you're focused on reaching the right people instead of just reaching as many people as you can start making much braver choices with your content. You can show up as your weirdest self. You can say the things that you're afraid to say. You can just do all the things that are going to connect with the right people instead of just how do I manufacture virality, right? And when you're focused on that, it really can be so diminishing. It really diminishes you because you look at every post as a failure. If your posts are getting a few hundred views, you're going to see that as a failure if the benchmark you're holding yourself up to is 10,000 views, right? You're just going to feel like a failure constantly. And instead, when you start showing up and you say like, I don't care how many people see this. I just care that I'm showing up as my full self so that the right people can find me. When you do that, it becomes just really, really freeing. So I have 3 small things that I want you to do this week. Number 1, I want you to go and pull up your best performing post from the last few months. Which post had the most views, the most likes, the most engagement? Like the one that you look at and you're like, oh, that post did really well. Pull it up and ask yourself honestly, did this bring a single new client into my orbit? Is this even saying the thing that I want to say? Is this related to my work? Does this show the people who saw it, all those eyeballs, does it show them the value of the work that I do? Or did it just feel really good for the day or two that it was bringing in all those notifications? There's no right or wrong answer here. I just want you to be honest with yourself and pay attention to that. The second thing I want you to do is to go find a post that really does capture the value of what you do. And maybe it has way, way, way smaller numbers. I want you to look at those side by side and think about which one is more likely to bring the right people into your orbit. And maybe that post did. Maybe that smaller post did bring someone into your orbit who you had a conversation with, or they hired you, or whatever it might be. And I want you to pay attention to that gap between what performs and what connects, because that is a really, really, really important gap that makes all the difference in how you look at your content moving forward. And the third thing that I want you to pay attention to is when you catch yourself comparing, or you catch yourself looking at the numbers and you just say, I wish that I could go viral, or why didn't that post do better? Or why doesn't it have more views? When you start catching yourself doing that and you catch yourself holding yourself up against a benchmark that is really not a useful benchmark, which is this virality benchmark, just pay attention to it and remind yourself that you don't actually want the 20,000 wrong eyeballs on your content. You just don't want that because it's not going to get you where you want to get. You want the right 200. That is what you're looking for. That's all I got for you this week. I'll see you next week, and thank you for tuning in. All right, beautiful human, that's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. This episode was brought to you by my company, Honey Be Bold, with music by Shmukalele and production by Podium Studios. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, hit subscribe, and don't forget to rate and review us. It really helps us grow and means the world. See you next time.